I have been singing professionally and teaching privately for over 20 years. Yikes. It occurs to me that some of the ideas I'd like to share with you in this presentation are things that I still think about every single time I open my mouth. I personally have learned so much from teaching because I have found when I ask others to do something, it could be a reminder to do these things myself. And indeed it is. This morning, for example, I sang through a French art song by Gabriel Fauré called En Prière that I used to warm up. While singing it, I think about many of the concepts and ideas that I currently share with others in teaching. These ideas are not revolutionary and they're not some kind of special secret. I think my job has been over a number of years to remind myself of these practices when I sing and to help others become aware of them when they use their own voice. Okay. There's a book that I've read recently called The 46 Rules of Genius by Marty Neumeier. And he observes that we can learn anything, but we can't learn everything. The meaning of that statement, as I see it, is that you can know about all kinds of stuff. It can circulate around you, but you can't do it all at once. So you have to prioritize it in kind of a hierarchy about what to think about first and what to concentrate on first. The items that I hope to share with you today are like basic ingredients in a recipe. I think the analogy of the recipe, if I'm going to continue with it, is to think about what we do conceptually when we create sound with our voice. When I was in Philadelphia studying to be a working opera singer at the Academy of Vocal Arts, I was preparing my first Mozart role, the Count in The Marriage of Figaro. One of the things that maestro taught me was to think about my voice as an instrument in the orchestra. The one that Chris suggested that I think about was the cello. I was taught by him to imagine that I was a cello using a bow to create sound. I applied that idea all throughout my career, but it wasn't until I became a teacher I thought it might be useful to think about what that means exactly. So let's think about the examples of musical instruments, say in an orchestra or in a rock band or in other types of musical groups. In an orchestra, they're typically divided into 4 groups: percussion, drums, cymbals, and the like. Trombones, trumpets, horns are in the brass section. Clarinets and saxophones and oboes are in the woodwind section, among other things. And then strings, violin, viola, cello, bass, guitar, anything that primarily uses strings to make sound. And I started to wonder how and why these instruments were categorized in this way, or at least in my humble opinion. How do they produce sound in a basic sense? For example, strings produce sound in a specific way. An object makes contact with the strings and causes them to vibrate. In the case of the violin, it's a bow. With a guitar, it's a pick or your fingers. And then the sound resonates in a chamber. Et voila. For brass, there's a mouthpiece, and we blow pressurized air through a tube, and these vibrations produced are amplified by a bell. For clarinets and saxophone and oboes, it's the same kind of idea, except there are reeds instead of a mouthpiece, which vibrates the sound. And as for drums, you hit them. And that creates vibration. And in the case of timpani, these are drums that have even specific pitches that are produced. I think it's interesting to connect that when we create sound with our instrument, our own individual voice. We make sound from birth, but we don't often have to think about what we do. We just do it. I think it has great benefit from the get-go to think about how our voice relates to other types of instruments. So a question. Picture this. All 4 instrumental sections are sitting on the stage: brass, strings, percussion, and woodwinds. And I'd like to leave you with a question. Based on how we produce sound with our voice, which section or sections could we sit in? So I'll address this question myself through my own lens the next time I create one of these presentations. And thank you for your time, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.